Chairman Billy Lerma.
Here.
Board members Roland Barrera. Barbara Canales. Not here. Paulette Guajardo.
Present.
Gil Hernandez is absent. Michael Hunter is absent. Susan Hutchison.
I'm here remotely.
Okay, thank you. John Martinez.
Here.
Ben Molina.
Present.
Mike Pusley. James Sedgwick. Greg Smith. Okay, we do have a quorum present to conduct the meeting, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone here who would like to make a public comment on an item on the agenda? Ms. Huerta, did we receive any written comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Moving to item D, the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the minutes for the October 26, 2021 reinvestment zone number 3 and December
Second.
14th, 2021
sorry.
reinvestment number 3 special meeting.
Councilman Barrera.
Barrera? Okay, and,
I'll second.
all right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Financial, we're going to item E, the financial report. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Board and Chairman. Heather Hurlbert, Director of Finance. Next slide, please. So we are looking at the financials today for the first 2 months of the fiscal year ending, in the period ending November 30th, 2021. So our beginning fund balances are unaudited, but we do not anticipate any significant changes to those fund balances. So we began the year with $5.4 million in our fund balance. Revenues to date are $185,000. So this is a property, since it is a TIRZ, our property taxes are normally received in January and February timeframe. And so we'll see the majority of the revenue for this TIRZ to come in during that period of time. Our expenditures to date are $174,000, which has an ending fund, it leaves us with an ending fund balance of $5.4 million. We have commitments outstanding, not including our project-specific commitments of $4.8 million, leaving us a balance available for commitments of $621,000. Next slide, please. So, we do, even though we do have those large commitments, a lot of those are paid out over a period of years. And so this shows, gives you an illustration of what may be available within each year to provide for incentives based off of estimated annual revenue. Next slide, please. So then to look at some of our programs that we have and the awards that we've given for incentives, we have an estimated total of $5.2 million in incentives for project-specific development. And those will be paid out, project-specific are those that are paid out as that the taxes are collected. It's a rebate of taxes. Next slide. Our targeted vacant property improvement incentives, we have $190,000 of incentives that have been awarded and outstanding. Next slide, please. Our downtown living initiative, we have a total of $3.8 million that have been awarded and are outstanding to be paid out over the next several years. Next slide, please. Our new tenant finish out, we have $105,000 worth of incentives that are still outstanding and to be paid. These are shorter term, and we do expect that those will be paid out within the current fiscal year. Next slide, please. And then our streetscape and safety improvement program, we have almost $700,000 in outstanding commitments, and those are estimated to be paid out over the next several years, with a lot of them for this year and next year. So that does conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions, board? No?
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Okay, moving to item F, executive session items. The board will go into executive session on items 3 through 5 per Texas Government Code, section 551.071 and 551.087. We will return. It is 10:23 a.m.
Hold on, just one, okay, ready.
Okay. Okay, I entertain, on an executive session, we pulled item 4, that will be discussed at a later date. It was not discussed in this executive session. So just to let the audience know that we did pull item 4 in executive session. I entertain a motion. Any other motions, Mr. Postman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion authorizing a downtown development reimbursement agreement with 326 North Chaparral LLC in an amount not to exceed $169,000 for improvements to the property located at 326 North Chaparral Street under the Streetscape and Safety Improvement Program and the Vacant Building Program.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
thank you. Would it be possible we could just have a kind of a brief for the public out there, what the plans are on this expenditure?
No, I don't see why not, Ms. Mason.
Good morning, board members. For 326 North Chaparral, we have the property owner and developer here with us, Freddie Rodriguez, who is a native of the area. He is proposing turning the project into a dynamic, family-friendly asset to our downtown area, which will include retro arcade games, an upstairs sports bar, and an outdoor patio facility. Would you like to add anything else, Freddie, about the project?
I think board members have maybe some questions for you, Freddie.
I can answer your questions first if you like.
No, just go ahead and give us a little briefing on what you're planning.
Well, from my experience in the past few years, I've just noticed it's like downtown just needs a little bit more energy. I think the opportunity is there. And, you know, having served in the Marine Corps, coming back and visiting my family here in Corpus Christi throughout the years, it seems like nothing ever really takes off, and it should. And, you know, I have a lot of friends and investors in Houston, Texas that I've done business with over there. But I'm trying to tell them, hey, forget Houston. Houston's good. Let's come to Corpus Christi and help this city come up. And it's one thing for me to say that or suggest that, but that's not going to work. I need to do it first, show it to them, and that will help spur some more growth and investment into the city of Corpus Christi. So based on my research and the Downtown Management District survey of what is needed, according to the survey that the locals actually answered to, you know, I came to the realization that there needs to be more family-friendly things to do here. I mean, yeah, you have the bayfront, you have the restaurants. In the same survey, they talked about locals visit downtown Corpus Christi 4 to 6 times on average per year. And when they're here in downtown, they're here for maybe 2 hours and then they're gone. So I'm like, why is that? I'm thinking they come here for the restaurants and then they leave because there's nothing really else. There's not a whole lot to do for family friendly. So I figured, you know what, why not? Let's do that. I don't want to just do another bar. I don't want to do another club that's cool for a year and it's out of business. I want to have something that is good for locals as well as for the tourists that come here. So that's why we're doing it. And 10% of our revenue will go to charity, children's charities that we will elect in the future. Guaranteed off the top, it'll be 10% to charity. Jason Gutierrez, his 5-year-old daughter passed away long ago. She had cancer. And we're going to do things for kids with cancer and for other things. And that's part of what we're doing. So.
That's great, Freddie. Board, is there any questions that
I have
you'd
a
like?
comment.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Mr. Rodriguez, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you because you could have invested in an easier, right, an easier city to just add something to their landscape. And you chose Corpus Christi, and we're very proud of that. And that's what these programs are about. They're to join forces to help you help us. And so we're very excited about that. And thank you for keeping the family in mind, opposed to, I mean, you know, we have to have vibrant downtown and bars and restaurants and all of that, but you're kind of combining. And Councilman Martinez, who, I guess he stepped away, but our children will be attending. Our 16-year-olds will be there, just so you know, and Peter's as well.
Yeah. Well, I have two daughters, 11 and 14, and
Yeah.
I'm creating a place where
Yeah.
I would want to take my family.
Well, right, and
not
we've
feel
all
weird
been
about
out
it.
of town where you look to see, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Colorado. So in Breckenridge, you know, they've got somewhat, I can't remember the name of it, but it's an arcade, and you go upstairs, and it's a restaurant. And
Yeah.
the family can go.
Yeah.
And the family, as mentioned, Alyssa, also when it's, you know, always freezing cold there, you just want to get in somewhere. And so
Yeah.
it serves such a great purpose, but the family being the most important. So again, thank you for your investment in Corpus Christi. We're very, very excited to work with you, and hopefully more so in the future. And we appreciate you being here today.
Well, appreciate it, and thank you guys for allowing me to even be up here.
Yes, sir.
My comment to you is, thank you for coming home and investing in your city. We know that you were from the Molina area and all that raised, and of course you got educated and you went out and did your own thing, and that's great. Semper Fi from one Marine to another. You know, there's nothing that we can't accomplish when we set our minds to. But I'm thrilled that you had a vision for Corpus Christi, and you picked our city to come back home and invest, and you're going to be a role model to other outside investors, and you're going to be able to prove that to them from the Houston area or wherever else you have investments. And we know that you will be successful here. We
With
won't
y'all's
let you
help.
fail.
Yeah, and I believe we are too. I think the Corpus Christi's best days are in front of it. I really do. And, you know, I don't know if you are aware, but back in like early 1930s, 40s, the Corpus Christi, you can Google it, was known as the port of play and profit. And, but here we are today, and I just feel like there's always room for improvement. You know, I'm not dogging the city, but Austin and Corpus Christi had the same population back in like I forgot what year it was, like 1970. And here we are, 2022, and Austin just blew us away as far as population. I'm like, you know what? That's unacceptable. We need to do something, but it starts within. And when we start within ourselves and within the city, it's just going to, you know, venture out and get other people's attention. So I think we need to live up to what our forefathers and mothers planned for this, had their vision for the city long ago. And it needs to be a port of play and profit. And profit doesn't necessarily mean money. It's how can I profit emotionally? Like, how can I be happier? Let's create more jobs. Let's get some of these tech companies and whatnot to come to this city and invest in themselves. But, you know, talk is cheap, and, you know, actions speak louder than words. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and with y'all's help, we'll just continue to do it over and over again.
Well, we thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yeah. Again, I want to thank you too, and you know, we did see the renderings back there in executive session, I guess, but you know, it's an exciting look, and I think that's why it's so important to talk about this in public with it, what you're doing, and you've done a great job of saying what's your vision, your culture, and things. Thank you for coming to invest in there and bringing that spark that this city needs. You grew up here, you've gone and seen the spark elsewhere, and helped bring us into the 21st century.
I appreciate it. And like I told Alyssa, you know, my branches may be hanging around Houston, but my roots are in Corpus Christi, and I'm going to do all that I can with what I have and try to make a difference, because I know this. One day I won't be here, but if I can do something to help this city grow and prosper like it should, and leave something behind for future generations, and I did my job, and I can die peacefully. But until then, I'm going to do what I can, and with y'all's help, you know, teamwork makes the dream work, and I can't do this by myself. So this is the first of many projects to come. I have a lot of visions for Corpus Christi, particularly downtown. Mixed-use development, some commercial properties, multifamily, and I got the people in Houston, Texas, who got the cash to do it. But again, if there's one thing I have trouble with, is doing one thing at a time. But I'm just going to do this one thing first, get it going, and then I can go there and say, hey, come look at this. Bring your money with you.
Okay.
Well, we want to thank you, and definitely thank your team for picking Corpus Christi and coming to us and help us with the visions that we are looking at too.
Well, I
Thank you so
appreciate it,
much.
and my team is going to be an asset. Mr. Dominic Catalano, he was a Navy SEAL, Vietnam veteran. He makes the best pizzas in America. He is a real New York Italian. I know you've seen movies. He's a real one right here. JJ Steger, he and I were in the Marines together, 123. And he is a combat veteran spent a couple tours, I think, in Iraq. Jason Gutierrez, he's our GC. He's going to be heading a lot of things for us, too. And JoJo, she's our bar consultant. She knows a lot about the restaurant and hospitality business. So I can't do this by myself. I need a good team. Tom Brady can't win championships by himself. He needs a good team.
Okay.
So I think the team will make a lot of things happen. So I appreciate it, guys.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any other further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can we please see Ms. Hutchison and Mr. Hunter? Okay, and y'all voted aye, both of you? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next motion, Mr. President.
Melissa, would you like to make a presentation before I make
Second
a
one.
motion?
Yes, sir. So the second item we have for your consideration today is an incentive agreement for 1301 North Chaparral Street, which many of us recognize as the Hoover Hotel. The concept here is the conversion to an apartment building with a restaurant site on the first floor that will be known as the Preston. We have the developer here with us, Santana Perez, who's also a native of the Coastal Bend area, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
She's coming up to speak.
Hi, as Alyssa stated, my name is Santana Perez. I am from the small coastal town of Rockport, Texas. And similar to the last speaker, I also reside in Houston, Texas. And as much as we love Houston, there's just something different about the coast. And so probably about early 2021, I had my sights set on the Lauren on Morgan, which is over on Morgan and Staples. And what we've been able to do is transform those apartments upstairs to these beautiful living spaces for travel nurses, which we saw as a housing shortage. And so we've been able to beautifully decorate them, renovate them, and then also keeping the mixed-use space. And one thing that we found is the actual people that are coming to the apartments is that they really enjoy being able to go downstairs for a coffee, being able to hang out in a cafe, being able to shop downstairs. And so we want to keep that same mixed-use concept in the Hoover Hotel. And similar to kind of the downtown living initiative, like Studio 44, Ron Jovi, we want to keep a bit of a minimalist aspect to the downtown living. We want to make it a little bit more towards attracting a younger demographic and hopefully keeping them in downtown. And exactly what he mentioned about family friendly, I have a longer term vision. There's a vacant space right there on the corner lot. And in Houston, Texas, we have this place called Levi Park. And ideally, you know, we start bringing more of those family friendly items. But the thing is we need people living in downtown. And so if you're bringing businesses and you don't have families and you don't have people living in downtown, then it's really fruitless. And so that's what we want to contribute, is adding more people into downtown, keeping them there, making sure that there's different attractions for them around town, and really just enhancing sort of the overall demographic. Because as you go up North Chaparral, it gets bleaker and bleaker and bleaker. And unfortunately, right now, the Hoover Hotel is one of the bleakest parts of Chaparral. And so again, we want to take the next 12 to 15 months or however long it takes to fully renovate this the way that we've renovated the Lauren on Morgan. Okay,
Thank you
any
so much.
questions?
Ms. Wahardo?
Yes, well, thank you. Same thing, same message. Thank you. And this is really a huge day for both of you because you are providing the residencies and you're providing the entertainment. I mean, they go hand in hand.
Exactly.
Congratulations to both of you. Thank you for investing, same message, here in Corpus Christi, because you do believe it. And we are moving Corpus Christi for downtown, I mean, the city as a whole, but downtown. We've never had, and I think both of your teams, if you haven't already, you drive through downtown when the sun's going down. And it is a new place than what was even, you know, a year or two ago. And so we're super proud of our downtown management team, but this partnership, again, is to help all of us, right? Both sides. And thank you for your vision, and God bless you for buying that building. Because it has been sitting there, and it's just like falling apart, and it's almost kind of scary looking. It reminds me of the Bates Motel a little bit. But thank you, because this is going to be truly a piece of this puzzle for that particular area that is going to be what sets it off. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Both of you guys have done a great job, and look forward to seeing those projects finished.
Yep.
Mr. Molina?
Thank you, sir. You know, both of these projects, yours and Freddie's here, have the potential to be transformational and symbolic for our downtown and for our city. And I know that they're going to be successful. I've seen your other building on Morgan. It's a great-looking building. I saw it before what it was today, and it was really scary looking before. So both of these developers have proven track records. And I think it says a lot about where we are today as a city when you have Houston money coming to invest in Corpus Christi. So I'm really appreciative of your efforts for wanting to revitalize the area and bring in something new. And wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, statements, board? Okay.
Great. Thank you.
I entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Chairman,
Second? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mr. President.
Oh.
we're just super excited today.
You know, you can tell how excited we are, right?
Yes.
Any other good
Mr.
questions?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion authorizing a downtown development reimbursement agreement with 1301 North Chaparral LLC in the amount of not to exceed $225,000 for improvements to the property located at 1301 North Chaparral Street under the Downtown Living Initiative and the Vacant Building Program. And I would like to add, thank you so very much for purchasing this building. It's been an eyesore forever. I know the other businesses in that area are going to jump for joy when they find out that this is now going to take on a different facade. So I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Do I have a
Second.
It's been second. Any other discussion? All those signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, is that item 6, Ms. Huerta?
Yes, sir, it is. Item 6.
Motion approving an amendment to the Downtown Development Reimbursement Agreement with 1001 North Water Street LLC.
Yes, sir.
Mason?
So this item is an extension for 1001 North Water Street, which we're calling the North Water Project. This project, we have the developer here with us in the audience, David Fournier. He's taken some of our more challenging buildings in the downtown area and has worked on putting them back into use. This building, we ran into a few more issues than anticipated when that initial timeline was set. So we'd like to recommend an extension of this reimbursement agreement until the end of this year to give them time to kind of catch up with that construction timeline. The letter requesting the extension, I believe, is in your packet, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, as would Mr. Fournier.
Yeah.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, can we see Ms. Hutchison and Mr. Hunter, please, for that vote?
Aye.
We need to see y'all too, sorry.
We need to see you.
Yes. So this is for IT, if IT could do that for us. Okay, thank y'all. And y'all voted aye, correct? Thank you
Both
very
ayes.
much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving to item H, presentation, downtown streetscape, tree planting along Water Street for improvements to shade and pedestrian experiences.
Yes, sir.
Ms.
So
Mason.
We are very excited about this project. We have with us Brian Chambers from Design Workshop, who's been working with us on building out this concept. This was originally conceived when we started realizing, following the mayor wants to add more trees throughout the entire city, and we also echo wanting to develop that in the downtown area where we really lack shade. We identified Water Street as a priority location and began development of this concept. On the first slide, I do indicate, if you all know me and my style, I like to just get things done, so we kind of jumped ahead with a recommendation for funding for this project, but at this stage, we really just want to introduce the concept, get the board's feedback, and we're welcome to hearing any direction for how we can make this project feasible. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Brian, and then go sit over there if there's any questions.
Good morning. Thank you. After those two presentations or discussions, I wish I was purchasing something and bringing you another investment here.
Brian, would you kindly just, there you go.
Closer. Okay.
Perfect.
But I am honored to be in this room, especially after those two projects, and I hope that this has a story that can piggyback on that as well. Do we have the presentation on the screen?
Can we have the Water Street presentation? There we go.
There you go.
Next slide, please. Next slide. There we go. So a few months ago, this project started for us as a tree planting project. Public Works was going to be resurfacing Water Street from Furman Avenue to Highway 37. And we were looking for where can we plant as many trees as possible in some of these areas. And quickly, when we put the project in context of downtown, all of us realized this is way bigger than just a tree planting project. It has the potential to be so much more. Water Street is really a connector street. And this diagram on the top shows how there are these unique identities to downtown today, from the Marina Arts cluster to the Innovation cluster, downtown tourism cluster, and residential cluster. And Water Street, so clearly, in this 1.3 mile stretch, is connective tissue for all of these areas. But then what we really got excited about, and what created the momentum of this project that I'll walk forward with more, is the opportunity to do something bigger and connect downtown to the waterfront. And in a lot of our discussions, we realized Water Street today is very much a barrier to that connective tissue. There's something like 15 different intersections right now on this stretch that can either help people connect to that water or hinder them. And this idea of making one place where you can come to the restaurant, you can come to your place of work, you could come to the waterfront. No matter what first drew you here, you park one time and you are here. This is really becoming a placemaking project more than an infrastructure project. And that got us all very excited. In order to do that, we need a continuous fabric of comfortable sidewalks, shaded public realm. And so these images on the right became precedents for us, what we thought in our work at Design Workshop might be applicable to Water Street. Next slide, please. The one that I would like to talk about is Bagby Street in Houston, which is in the Midtown District. This Bagby Street had much of the same challenges that Water Street has. Number one for it was a stormwater and flooding issue. Number two was a very uncomfortable public realm, not a lot of trees, a lot of pavement. And number three was the district was struggling to see new private investment come along the edges. There were a lot of empty parcels and vacant lands. This, what started as a stormwater improvement under the street, turned into a transformational project above the street on the surface. And the proof is really in these metrics, which we're very proud of, but 88% of the public realm is now shaded in trees, canopy cover. In terms of stormwater, there's almost 500,000 gallons of water that can be stored in some of the rain gardens that are along the edges. All of these improvements came because they realized they probably had more land dedicated to cars than they needed to, and they could take some of that and provide it to enhance the public realm experience. Another thing to that last point that really transformed and was the model for how their Midtown is growing now is that this public realm investment along a corridor became a catalyst for private development. They built the public realm first, and the private realm grew around it. So $40 million of new development came in just 5 years, and then there was 20% increase in property values in 2 years. Next slide, please. And that is not, it's not out of the norm. When we first started working with Alyssa and the team, we saw this diagram which was from them, and they were showing us the TIRZ projects up to this point. There was something like 40 different projects completed or under construction. And when we started to analyze where they were, we saw there's truly a clustering around Chaparral Street. Obviously, who wouldn't want to be part of that street? And so there's this direct correlation between the great public realm investment and the private investment that comes around it. And so the thesis behind this whole project and the question we began to ask ourselves was, is it possible that what is the opportunity, I guess, for Water Street to become that? And if you were to look at Water Street, which is at least twice as large as the Chaparral improvement, what opportunity does Water Street have to catalyze the future growth that will ultimately go back to the much bigger vision, which is we want to connect the waterfront and downtown as one single place? Next slide. So if we zoomed in for a second, and this is just a 4-block segment of Water Street, but it really could be almost anywhere. When we look at some of the challenges that are there today, which are really just the dormant opportunities. But 3% of the streetscape today is covered by shade, which just makes it unpleasant for somebody to be walking around. 79% of the street frontage is vacant land or surface parking lots. And what that just means is as you're walking down the sidewalk, to your left are cars passing down the road, to your right are probably cars parked. And it's just another uncomfortable space to be in as a pedestrian. When you are on the sidewalk, you're often right up against the edge of the street, so you're very close to cars passing by, and that's also a challenge. But the opportunity, as you see on that bottom, proves the slide before it, which is to say, if you were to imagine Water Street as being transformed into one of those pictures of Bagby Street, all these parcels and pieces of land in pink represent opportunities that are ripe for the owners that are there today to reinvest in those properties and to see transformation of the private development over time. Next slide, please. So what could that look like? Here is a concept of what that could look like in the form of a cross-section. And the cross-section is helpful because you can see where we're gaining opportunity. The diagram up on the top left is showing you what the right-of-way is today. It's an 80-foot right-of-way. And it's worth noting that in our study, we were not looking at changing the volume of traffic or the drive lanes. So there are 4 lanes there today, and there will be 4 lanes in our study. But where we're gaining opportunity, where we're making transformation, is really in the edges, where we're able to take over some of the on-street parking in strategic places and expand the public realm so that there's a number of opportunities, whether it's to capture water, plant trees for shade, or have spill-out spaces for businesses. One of the metrics that we're most proud of, and this goes back to that bigger picture of connecting to the waterfront, is the distance that we now can walk from crossing the street. If you were in downtown and wanted to go to the waterfront or vice versa, before, as you're on the curb about to make your journey across the street, you would be walking 60 feet before you got to the safe zone again on the other side of the sidewalk. By using bulb outs and taking those parking spaces on the 2 edges, we've now reduced that to 44 feet, making it a lot more comfortable and a lot safer. It also helps to reduce the traffic for the car so that there aren't as many conflicts. Next slide. We were looking at this, as a study, so it was zoomed in, but then we wanted to see what can we do to apply it across the whole 1.3 mile stretch. And there was just this simple idea of a kit of parts. So the first part is the biggest one, top left of your screen. It's the intersections, where there's a bulb out on all four sides, and this is what we saw in the rendering before. And this is where you get the biggest bang for your buck, and I think where the identity of downtown really changes. The second one would be in mid-block bulb outs, and that's what you see on the top right. That's this idea of taking two existing parking spaces that exist today, and instead of there being cars, the curb bulbs out, and you create an opportunity for planting, for seating, for trees, or for stormwater. The diagram on the bottom right shows when you choose to do a stormwater solution, how that could work, where water is still shedding and complementing the existing infrastructure that is below the ground. But it's a temporary storage solution. So in those big gully washers, you're able to store a bunch of water, hold it for a day if you need, or just a few hours in some cases, until it can drain and go into the natural system. Next slide, please. When we apply that and we said, all right, across the 1.3 miles, just order of magnitude, what are we looking at here? We wanted to understand how many trees and how much landscaping and what that might look like across all of those innovation, marina arts, downtown tourism districts. This is a picture of that. And you see the metrics at the bottom, again, indicate what could be possible with Water Street, where, remember, there was 3% shade, canopy shade, throughout the corridor before, and there's an opportunity to get up to 67% of that to be shaded, which is, great for people to be crossing the street, walking down, and connecting everyone together. There's also that metric we mentioned before about the walking distance, how we're dramatically reducing that, which is what you see there in the decreased crosswalk distance. The last part is the return on investment story, and that's this idea. Remember, 79% of the frontages were vacant land or surface parking lots. So there's an opportunity to see that actually almost reverse, where 70% could be active frontages. You can imagine new businesses wanting to put their storefront and face that street again, giving it an edge, having people be there. Perhaps the parking is now in the back or on the side and things like that. And then lastly, there's always the at what cost does this come? And of course, I think this is actually also a win. Usually, there is a more dramatic thing here, but across the corridor for that 1.3 miles, we calculated 225 parking spaces that exist today. 80% of those would remain. So the transformation and the metrics that we've seen up to this point are really about taking that 20% of the parking that is there today and being able to leverage it in a new way for the public realm. And with that, I'll open up to any questions. Thank you. Oh, I guess I should say one more thing. Actually, I forgot. You might notice a little dashed line on this drawing. There was a question that came up in some of our open house about phasing, and we always said, well, ideally, we'd love for this whole thing to be built at once. But there is a logical break point. It becomes a money, issue at some point about where the phasing should be. But if you can start at the Marina Arts District, our recommendation would be to start at the Marina Arts District and into the Innovation District up to Kinney Street. And that would make a logical breaking point because the Downtown Management District can control the maintenance of that segment. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, Brian. Board, is there any questions? No questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, Mr. Pusley, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like this ideal. I think it would add a great deal to Water Street, and with businesses that are wanting to come here. And, I think there's one picture in your presentation that kind of, if you go back and look at it, the one where you're looking east on Water Street toward the Whataburger and the Bayview building. Let's see, go back one more. Yeah, that top right picture, that pretty well tells the story. It's pretty barren looking place. So,
yeah.
Anything you can do to help the aesthetics of that is going to be a step forward. And we have other streets in downtown where we have tree coverage, and those have turned out really nice, I think. So I think this is a really great step forward, and something we should support. And Alyssa's gonna help us find the money to do it.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. She's already talking. Ms. Waldo?
Yes, so you mentioned 20% of our parking spaces would be utilized.
Yes.
in this. So does that create a problem in terms of, our parking issue that we've always talked about downtown?
One of the things that we have found through our parking study is that a lot of times we have areas where the parking is concentrated or the utilization of the parking is concentrated, and then we have these vast spaces where it's never utilized. So I think that as we go forward through kind of the vetting process, we'll look at a block by block configuration and really kind of narrow that down. I think one of the things that Brian mentioned was that we have the potential to get up to 67% shade canopy. Right now we're at 3%. So as we figure out maybe this parking space actually, provides more of a utility than a tree, maybe we hold back on putting a tree there. But I think we'll have to look at it. And this is one of the things that's so lovely about this project is that what we found and what they did in Rock Rose Avenue in the Domain in Austin and what they did on Bagby in Midtown was that it wasn't a one tree every 25 feet, right? Design Workshop has basically led the way in changing the configuration for streetscape projects where you now design a landscape based upon kind of what it already looks like. And so you can customize it per block. So I think we'll be able to be flexible on that. I think if we wanted to maximize shade cover, we would lose 20%. But if we want to kind of balance out those needs, we would potentially reduce that down. But that's, I think, a maximum based upon the configuration.
Great. No, this is a wonderful plan. And this, tell me what streets it goes from where to where, this particular?
From Furman to 37.
Okay.
Furman Avenue to Highway 37.
First phase would be,
First phase
Yeah.
would be from 37 to Kinney.
37 to Kinney. Okay.
I mean,
And
Is that right?
I do want to kind of add, I think that, again, as we go through the conceptualization process and getting feedback from this board, we, of course, want to ask for the full thing, because if we don't even ask for that, there's no possibility that we can get it. But we did look at phasing, breaking it down from I-37 to Furman into 2 phases, and then we're looking, I guess, for direction from the board and working with city staff to figure out if we have to phase it even further than that to make it actually possible.
Well, I would say, Alyssa, unless, someone speaks from a different direction, that this is a great concept. I'm extremely supportive of it. But I would ask that you come back with some options in how to do it. I mean, and again, other council members may want to speak, but what are the options? What are the funding sources that we can get creative with in order to know whether we need to phase it more so or as you've presented? This is exciting, and I'm all about trees. I'm all about trees.
This
So
is
I
very
think trees
exciting.
make all the difference in the world.
It does make a
It
big
does,
difference. It
for
really
so many
does.
reasons. So thank you.
This is a
very
great
much.
project. I'm in 100% support of it. I'd like to hear from Peter's side to see what he feels about how this project looks and how would the city be able to help on this project,
right.
if you may.
Yeah, thanks, Councilman Lerma. Yeah, we've been working pretty closely with Alyssa and her team, and we're very supportive of it. I don't think it takes a genius to figure out that street's very stark, and so we've seen transformational projects like this across the country. It is good timing because we're developing candidate projects for the proposed 2022 bond program for the city. And so as the mayor mentioned, that funding stream could be a potential revenue source. It wouldn't be the only one, most likely, but it could be one that would help in the funding of this project.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pusley.
Yeah, just one thing to add, and this is sort of when Councilman Barrera and myself and Councilman Smith met with the team here a couple of weeks ago, sort of a swing from the ankles proposal was, because the mayor brings up a good point. We're so desperate for parking space in downtown, the thought of losing 20 parking places is a pretty big deal. But we talked about the possibility, Water Street is a 4-lane road that carries a lot less traffic than any of our downtown streets. And so we discussed the concept of narrowing Water Street to 2 lanes and then adding that additional a pedestrian-friendly area on each side of Water Street, which could be landscaped as we proposed here, and then we wouldn't lose the parking places. So that, Peter, maybe is a concept we could think about down the road, but, and I'm usually the one who is fighting for not narrowing streets, but if we were ever going to do one here in Corpus Christi, that might be one that would be appropriate for that. And
Yeah,
Alyssa seemed to like the ideal as well.
You're right, Mr. Pusley. Look at Chaparral. That was the same before, 4 lanes, and we cut it down to 2, and it works just fine. We don't have any major issues there. So I don't see why we couldn't do the same here on Water Street.
Right,
It's a good thing to look at, Peter.
Well, we in fact, we brought that concept to the firm already as part of our conversation with them. I think the response was it's a little bit more expensive scope or project. So this is kind of a start, but it's one that's more budget ready, I think, right? Is that what?
We have a, if you're keeping things the way they are, it's more of a surgical approach where a lot of the sidewalks are remaining the same today. That 10-foot sidewalk is remaining the same. Where we're gaining plantable area is really by taking the curb and taking those parking spaces where we choose one by one down the road. If you start to think of a road diet, it becomes really a full reconstruction of the streetscape.
That's good.
We haven't excluded that one yet, but just to let you know, that's the reaction that option offers.
Right, I'm glad we're looking at it. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, and thanks, Alyssa and team, for coming to us. And we all know Water Street right now is a sterile, it's a dry street on there. It doesn't have any pedestrian traffic to speak of. One interesting thing, we compare to Chaparral. Actually, we have a wider right-of-way, an extra 20 feet to work with here. So if we see some of kind of the narrowness on Chaparral, we could add this improvements without outdoing it. I think that's a real positive. But to me, with the TIRZ on it, that this is really what a TIRZ is about. This is a public improvement project. It will improve from one end to the other. It's not targeted with it, but it improves everybody. And I think of 600 building, a great project on there. It's going to add space to it. We're investing $3 million over is what our incentive package is for the 600 building, to put it in relationship. And this is the type that we could bond off of. It's public improvement on there, that we use this avenue. I think the quicker we go in and help Chaparral. We've had great people in here today that see the potential in Corpus Christi, and I think if the ones coming behind them would see Water Street improve like we're talking about now, that we have the trickle today, we'd have the flood tomorrow with it. But again, this is what a TIRZ is about. This is public improvement. Just like TIRZ 2 spent $4 million on the Water Exchange Bridge on there that benefits all of Padre Island, that this benefits all of downtown with it. So I hope when we're looking at it, we keep that in consideration and looking at the TIRZ. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Martinez?
This is such an exciting meeting for me, seeing the projects and things that we have coming up and seeing the improvement to downtown and even what I've seen in the last year and 2 years. It certainly gives the message that we're heading in the right direction. I would be a little concerned, though, narrowing the street. I know that it'd be nice and it would look nice, but the way I see how downtown is growing and the way that new attractions are coming, I really want to make sure that we're planning for the future and for the future growth. And I know we're trying to bring more residences and things like that to downtown. So I want to be sure that we're not hurting ourselves in a redesign of streets and things like that. I want to make sure that we're able to handle the traffic that comes through there. And even now, there are certain times when there's a lot of traffic in the area. When we have, St. Patrick's Day, there's always the festivals that go on down there and other activities. So, just to be sure that in our planning that we're looking at where we want to end up and where we're already headed, which is very exciting. So thank you for the hard work You know, I'm excited to see where we are, even next year when we're meeting, to see all the things that get done that we have planned right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Any other comments? Thank you so much, Brian. Alyssa? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm not sure. No, I think, okay, yeah. Yeah, because I'm not sure we can do that here. Go ahead.
Okay. No, that's it. No other business to come before this board. Meeting adjourned.